guys, welcome back to Crazy Ex-Girlfriend After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. We have a Halloween episode tonight. We're going to be talking about Darryl buying breast milk on the black market and Rebecca having a ghost. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
We do the cringe.
It was not my best.
I've done the cringe a couple times in my life.
You've had some very cringeworthy moments happen.
I have. Actually, I don't really cringe.
Other people cringe?
But other people cringe all the time.
All the time. Hey guys, thank you guys so much for joining us today on AfterBuzz TV to discuss Crazy Ex-Girlfriend final season. I am joined today by a brand new face to the show.
Hi, I'm Tehran, guys. Thank you for having me on the show. Actually, I'm here because of Bree. Bree made me a Crazy Ex-Girlfriend fan.
I do that. I just force it on people. But are you happy that I made you one?
I am. It's actually very insightful, not only for the show, but into your life.
Into my life.
Do. I really feel like it's there.
And I am Briana Phipps. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Nino is out this week because he got some very exciting news, and he will hopefully be sharing that with you soon. But wish him just luck for now, and he'll be back with us not next week, but 2 weeks from now. So let's get into this. What was your overall thoughts on this particular episode?
Well, I'm now a Crazy Ex-Girlfriend fan, and each episode, honestly, is always good. I've never seen a bad episode. There are episodes that are better, that stand out. This one was just a good episode. It was a good episode. It was fun. Was it the best episode? No, but it was overall, I had an enjoyable time. I enjoyed the songs. I really liked the 4 steps forward, like 6 steps back, that whole dynamic. That was very good to me.
So overall you enjoyed it.
Exactly. I'm not agoraphobic, but I am a procrastinator. And so I understand everything that Rebecca did in that song.
Yeah, I like you. I think every episode is good to an extent. Like every episode, even if it's not the best, has a good message to it. And the messages always come through, which is something I love about this show. But yeah, this one hit a little low for me. And I'm kind of waiting for us to get back into the swing of things. I feel like this season, we're only on the 2nd episode, but it hasn't been up to where we've had in the past. And I'm just kind of waiting for us to get there again. And I don't know if that's because we have an 18-episode season instead of 13, and it is the final season. So maybe they're kind of just trying to build a slow build up to where we're ending this thing at.
Do you feel that way because these episodes seem to be standalone instead of forwarding the plot? Yeah,
they're a little bit standalone, and I'm trying to think of how to phrase it the right way, but with Rebecca, going to jail and then now being secluded to her house, she's very secluded. And I think Rebecca's at her best when she's interacting with multitudes of people. So having her just kind of be alone gets the quirkinesses out. And sometimes they go a little too quirky for me personally. And this one went a little too quirky, especially with all of the tampon stuff.
I don't think you can get too quirky. And I also don't think you should be flushing tampons.
I mean, you shouldn't.
I understand.
I was wondering, is this a thing that is still happening? I thought everybody just knew you shouldn't do that.
Definitely is a thing that still happens.
Well, I mean, I guess then it had a great message. People, don't flush your tampons. You're going to clog up your pipes.
And there's going to be a dolphin with the tampon just floating around.
Anyway, going off track a bit. Let's dive into some of the people in this episode. Let's talk about Nathaniel. So Nathaniel, we have him kind of going back to work, but realizing that his dad has stepped in and is usurping him and put Bert in charge. Schizophrenic Bert makes a comeback, and he has a lot of changes that he wants to make to the firm.
Bert's a fun character. I like how they created Bert. Bert's all over the place. I love when Bert starts going, I have a master's in this, a JD in this, an MD, 2 PhDs. And I can kind of relate to that, and I appreciate Bert.
Do you believe Bert has all these?
It's interesting. Before the PI investigation, I thought that Bert was just going to be clean and they wouldn't really find anything. And then they found a lot. So by the end of the episode, I wasn't as sure that Bert had everything that he said he did. However, I would say that if anyone's going to find out, Nathaniel would have found out. And since Bert is still in charge in a way, I believe he has at least the JD.
Yeah, I like they brought Bert into this episode because having Rebecca out of the office and having so many of the original people, we kind of need that more quirkiness in the office. And I think Bert brought that this episode especially. And I love seeing them bring back familiar faces. Like, I love that they take these people that maybe had a one-off or a small character and bring them back. They did it with George. They've done it with so many people in the law office especially, but I really appreciate that they do that for these actors as well, because they're so fun to kind of delve into and to see what they can do with these parts more. But he changes the name of the firm from, I had to write this down because it's so long, Bunch, White, Feather, Plimpton, Plimpton, and Plimpton.
And he added his own name.
And he had his own name.
And made it Mountaintop.
Mountaintop subcategory.
Exactly.
Which I think is a better name. Because
Mountaintop?
But it's better than...
It looks like Mountain Dew.
It's not a great name, but it's better than Bunch, White, Feather, Plimpton, Plimpton, and Plimpton. That's so long.
That's not... I don't agree, and I'll say why. Because when you go to certain... And it's like Steinberg, Pulowski, and then Johnson, Johnson, and Johnson. Those are the names of firms. It's the last names. Mountaintop sounds like it's a cheap law firm, which, okay, granted, it is a cheap law firm, but it sounds like one of those, well, if you get Mountaintop, you're going to jail. Like, that's all I feel like. If you're getting Mountaintop to defend you or do your contracts or your real estate stuff, you're going to jail.
They are real estate, so it's not going to go to jail. It's just going to have a huge fine.
If you're in real estate, I just feel like you're still going to jail. Have you ever seen the IRS people and you're like, the people who go to jail for IRS, tax evasion and stuff, you're like, how did that happen? It's because they hired someone at Mountaintop. You know what I'm saying?
I can see your point. I still think they need to maybe get two names in there and call it quits.
I liked Plimpton, Plimpton, and Plimpton. That was a real...
But there's only one Plimpton here.
Is there?
I mean, technically there's two, because his dad still does have major control over not just as we see him, but the firm as well in making decisions. But Nathaniel, I think, is really the only Plimpton that's present at that firm.
And he hasn't been...
His dad just can't let go of control.
His dad can't let go of control, and that's just
hence why Nathaniel can't let go of control. Control issues all over the place here.
It's like Nathaniel is despising his dad and is slowly becoming his dad.
We all slowly become our parents in one way or another. Maybe not the entire thing, but there's parts of our parents, and it's usually the parts that we're like, even if it's the annoying parts. Like, my mom always makes these weird, like she'll say 6 half one dozen or another, and I used to hate that saying, and then I caught myself saying it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming my mom.
You're becoming your mom. See, if that were, I can believe that, but if that were fully true, I'd be such a nicer person. Let me just clarify that. I do think it's interesting that Nathaniel and Bert are butting heads so much, simply because Bert doesn't seem to be a control freak as much as he is a person who's trying to create something, who wants to be a part of something. But I think Nathaniel's so against that Bert had to kind of get defensive and show his assertiveness over him so that he could take him seriously. By the end, who do you think was wrong? In that situation? In that situation between Nathaniel and Bert. Now, and I'll give you a perfect example of when they're sitting around the desk in their meeting and Bert has taken over a case that Nathaniel was supposed to do, and then Bert says, yeah, you didn't show up for 2 court appearances. Yeah. So is Bert actually wrong? No, I think Nathaniel, it's ironic because Nathaniel's becoming what he hated most about Rebecca when he first started the firm. Exactly. Which is this absent person, is good at his job, but doesn't always show up, isn't always present. And I think that this was a kind of wake-up call for him, that he's been too focused on her, too focused on these other things, and he needs to kind of learn how to navigate his life and balance it out. And with Nathaniel and his father, an interesting aspect that I saw touch upon where I feel Nathaniel, in some ways, is, in a way, treating Bert the way I feel Mr. Plimpton treats Nathaniel. That's interesting. In a way, meaning always trying to undermine something you're doing or discredit you and try to prove that I'm better than you are or I'm more capable. We don't need you. And I saw in this episode something very interesting between Nathaniel and NP Sr. is the clash of, he's like, you care about me? And then he says, I care about this firm. That was heartbreaking. I care about this firm. Such a conservative, old-fashioned dad thing to say, where you're still having a tough time to just say, I love you, son. Yeah. Because clearly he loves his son, whether he knows it or not himself. But it's so hard because you have to take words at what they are. Sure. And so for Nathaniel, just be like, have this little glimpse of, oh, my dad loves me, and then have him say that and just rip it away just again. Ripped his... Oh. There was a moment, I feel like you could, if you had paused it, you would have saw exactly where Nathaniel's heart broke for half a second, like his eyes. He just lost a glimmer of hope.
It's such a real thing too, because there are so many parents that are like that, and I have friends that are. I'm so thankful that I don't have parents like that, but I can't imagine just always wanting that validation from your parent and never getting it.
All the time. And then it seems like Nathaniel took a lot of losses this episode. He lost that glimmer of hope he had for his father caring about him, lost his job duties, and then at the end, even when he thought he was back on top, he lost because Mountaintop came to play, and Bert just was aggressive in his role and stated, actually, I'm a majority partner
In this firm, and this is what's happening.
and this is what's going to happen.
Well, someone else who lost some stuff this episode was Darryl. Darryl lost, I would say, a little bit of sanity around this. It's so disheartening. It's heartwarming, but it's a little disheartening as well that Darryl he's such a good dad. And we see that in this episode. We see him wanting what's best for his daughter. And he can't provide her with what's best, with who he is as a man. He can't provide breast milk. And so he has to go to this black market site and find some breast milk and drive all over LA to get it so that she can have what she needs to be the best.
A lot of people don't know black market breast milk is the new thing, actually. I saw a couple people in the corner the other day just dealing black market breast milk. I didn't even know you could buy breast milk online. It never occurred to me that someone would be selling breast milk.
I don't know how many people actually would. I mean, maybe there's more than I think there is. Maybe there is a huge portion of people.
I don't know about a huge market, but I would understand if adoptive parents purchase breast milk. There are people who are unable to breastfeed. I know they're surrogates.
Well, and I know it's always been a thing that they say that, breastfed babies are smarter and that formula babies are lacking in certain things, that there's not that bond as well. So, I mean, I can't attest to what it is or what isn't. I don't know if there's any scientific evidence on any of this.
I'm sure we'll find a lot. But what I found more interesting was, okay, so when the moms were sitting around and they're discussing, I really feel like that happens. And it's because I've seen several videos in which the concept is how judgmental moms can be towards other moms, especially when it's a first-time mom, and the senior moms get around and they just start judging them and kind of picking on them and negging them with things that they do.
Well, everybody thinks that they know how to raise somebody, which is... No one 100% knows how to raise a child.
My mom does.
Your mom does?
Exactly how to raise a child.
Well, most moms, maybe not your mom, most moms do their best, or parents in general do their best, and, you're probably going to make mistakes, but as long as the majority of what you're doing is good, and every kid's different, so you can't raise every kid the same way. It doesn't work. And I think that Darryl has a hard time, we know Darryl has a hard time letting go of things. Like, he gets kind of obsessive over things. We've seen him get obsessive in relationships. We've seen him get obsessive in just wanting to be friends with people.
No way, an obsessive character on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? No.
But this is his new obsession, is providing breast milk for his daughter, what do you think of this name his daughter has, which is a combination of Heather and Rebecca?
Rebecca?
Rebecca.
Hebby? Hebby? It was a funny name, especially when he has to kind of tell people, and they're, oh, Rebecca? No, Rebecca. And they just look at him like, okay.
Well, I found it extremely funny only because I know that there is a trend of people putting together people's names to create new names.
I've never heard of this trend.
I had some people I went to high school with do this with their kids, and
I need to know the
they
names.
Put together their brother and their sister's name to make their child's name, and it is the most ridiculous
Brelly?
name.
There's like a kid walking around like Brelly.
There could be. I mean, everybody wants their kid to have a unique name.
Stames.
People don't want them to have, not everybody, but you see lots of people wanting an Amy or an Ashley or Mark or Tony. So they want something that's unique and nobody else will have. And so they combine these names to create something new. So I thought that was a little nod to the kind of ridiculousness that we see people doing with
That's amazing. Well, good for Black people. We've been doing that for years, so I guess it's it's catching up to the trend. I think it's so sweet. It's such a Darryl thing to do, to show so much love for the two people he loved. I wonder why Josh didn't have a little Rebecca Joe. That would have been Rebecca Joe.
Maybe it was just a little too much.
I don't know with Darryl if there's ever a little too much. This isn't. I think it's interesting that he left out Joe. I understand why, but I thought it would have been so much funnier if it was Rebecca Joe.
Maybe it's gonna come out later. We'll do it in predictions. Maybe the middle name somewhere there.
That's what I'm saying. That Joe middle name, yeah.
But we do, speaking of Joe, we get him babysitting Rebecca.
We do.
And he is not comfortable with babies. He does not like them.
Really? Because by the end of the episode...
No, I mean, it's very contradictory. He says he does not like them.
I'm the same way. Babies, people, and for some reason babies like me, and I'm like, oh, I don't like babies. But it's also, maybe he doesn't like responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common theme in this show, is everybody not fully being able to grow up and accept certain things in their life. They just want to kind of...
Exactly, be able to let the flow. And with White Joe, Why Joe? With Why Joe, maybe it's about commitment. See, babies are kind of forever. You feel like they're forever. It's different when you're going day by day or just in a relationship. But when you have something that's forever and it feels like so much responsibility, it could be overbearing and just too much.
Well, and it happened so fast, too. It wasn't like, let's think about this and, like, rest on it for about 6 months, and then maybe we'll decide. It was Darryl being the obsessiveness and creating this child.
But White Joe was adamant that he didn't want a child from the get-go. And actually, that's what caused the breakup, is that he was like, I don't want children.
Yeah. Which is surprising to me because, again, like we've seen even with Darryl's other daughter, that he is very present in her life and he's very good with her. So I don't 100% believe him that he doesn't want children. I think it's like what you're saying. He doesn't want commitment.
Well, especially by the end of the episode where he's holding her. Well, he's like taking pictures of her in the koala outfit, and it was very cute. Let's be honest, it was very cute, even to someone like me, who isn't specifically like I'm the oh yeah, babies, who cares? Most babies are ugly. That was the cutest baby in a little koala outfit, and he's about that life. He becomes a very good parent.
I like that it has to take Josh coming over, though, to be like... And let's be honest, as we see towards the end, Josh was there for himself.
Josh, of course, was there for himself.
Of course, as always.
That's Josh's style.
But it took Josh going and kind of like pushing that on him for him to kind of accept it and realize, because he made the baby wake up and he made him actually interact with this child.
He was so concerned with the baby being asleep the whole time. But you know what? If he didn't really want to be there, he didn't specifically reluctantly say yes. It wasn't as reluctant as I would have thought of White Josh being.
Yeah.
Especially from the previous attitude he's had towards babies in general.
Well, I don't think, and I made that prediction last week, is I don't think that White Joe is over Darryl, and I don't think that relationship is over. He can't
be. That relationship, it would be, okay, not that crazy ex-girlfriend doesn't have a way of surprising me every single, as soon as I think something, I'm like, oh, no. So I can understand them just leaving it alone. But it would be very surprising to me if they don't get back together and the baby be part of the catalyst for it. Because White Josh didn't have as hard a time being there as one would have thought, or even he would have thought, or at least he would have implied with his words.
Mm-hmm. And I did want to note, because I wrote the note down, that both him and Nathaniel were the two people that didn't like Halloween. And the two fit hot guys, throwing back to that song. They were the ones that don't like Halloween.
They are both the ones that don't. And there are a lot of similarities between the two in a lot of ways. I don't know if we've pointed it out on the show as a newcomer, but there's a lot of similarities watching the show between White, Josh, and Nathaniel. Mm-hmm. Just a correlation.
No, I think that's a smart observation to have. You know what another smart observation is? All the places you can reach AfterBuzz TV.
Oh, that's right. I'd love to say, hey, AfterBuzzers, our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows. From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you. And you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. If you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they are optional. You can click them right off. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments below. We love hearing from you and we'll thank you on air. For now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
Yeah, guys, it really does help us out, and we really appreciate you coming here every week and watching us, and we love bringing you this content. This is something you can do to help us out. And, while you're there, just go ahead and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think, what you like, and hit that thumbs up if you're on YouTube. If you're on iTunes, give us that 5 stars, because we love 5 stars.
Love them. And I always add that this just isn't our show. This is everyone's show. When you comment below, trust me, I'm one of those responders. So I love reading the comments and getting your insights just as much. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. Yeah,
thank you. So let's get into Rebecca's storyline here.
Yes.
Which we see Rebecca now, she's out of jail, she's in her house, and she has this agoraphobia where she can't leave, and manifests this whole ghost story, which her house kind of lends to. And, makes a reason why she has to stay in the house so she can help this ghost.
They've been pushing the house story, right? So
the murder house?
The murder house. Isn't this the house that everyone... Oh! So they've been pushing that. I was wondering, do you think it was Rebecca better off in jail?
I don't know if she's better off in jail, because I think that as we saw in jail, she still made everything about herself too much and took away from those other people in jail. I think Rebecca really just needs to...
They started hating her. Too. They might have shanked her, but...
If anything, Rebecca might need some isolation and to really focus on herself and not have any outside distractions to keep her away from focusing and delving into who she really is. Because she finds those outside distractions and she leans on them.
Which is clearly, in some ways, the story arc of this 4th and final season is Rebecca finding herself. As I've seen all the titles that we've had so far, they're always like something about like the first one was I want to be here, I am ashamed, and then the next one is on my own path, it's just they're all like something about I'm on my own path, where she's looking for her way. She's lost and now she's trying to be found. Yeah. And with the end of this one, there was that part where she was speaking to Devin Lee, the young lady who was murdered in the house, as well as other... Let's not forget there were other gang members there that were murdered, and she was there buying meth, which was kind of such a funny little stab.
Well, I like that she just gave her this huge... It was her first time. She deserved a second chance. Great student, and then she was there just buying meth, and then there was feces matter left all over the wall. And she was 20 years old. She was the date on the computer was I wrote it down, September 5th, 95 to Halloween 2015. So it's the anniversary of her death, the 3rd year anniversary of her death. And when she's speaking to the what are the cemetery things called? Headstones? When she's speaking to the headstone, and she's really projecting and speaking to herself. And so I see that path you were talking about, where Rebecca is finding things, even though she's projecting. Clearly she's projecting and justifying and coming up with excuses the way only Rebecca can. She is understanding, because now we see her... First, we see her admitting to all the wrong things that she's kind of done. Then we see her feeling bad for things that she's done, when necessarily the old Rebecca wouldn't have felt that way, ever. Then we see her wanting to atone for the things that she's done. And now we even see her, in her own way, taking steps to being a better person. Yeah. I also thought it was an interesting thing that they had her have this shame over going to jail. I mean, this is somebody who has had so many things that most people could be ashamed for and not want to show their face in the light of day. And to have her this be the thing that kind of put her over the edge of that, to where she doesn't want to be judged by people, even though she likes to claim that she likes to be that person who is above all of that, doesn't care what people think, but she really cares. She cares the most about what people think.
3 days later cared. She was reading the comments. 3 days later, she was still reading the comments. Which, if you know, I'm sure we get a lot of comments on different shows that we've both been on. You do end up reading all the comments. You do end up just sitting there going through everything.
Well, it's easy. Yeah, you go down your little rabbit hole of, do people like me? Do people not like me? And it's easy to get lost in that. And so I like that they shed light, especially in the industry we're in. And especially with social media today, how it is. It's so easy to get lost in what people think of you, when you should just be able to be they're behind a computer screen. They can say whatever they want. I should let it go. and it's hard to let it go.
It's hard to let it go, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, because it's almost as if there are trolls everywhere all the time, and that's what social media feels like at times. While there's a lot of people who support you, there's a lot of people who try to undermine you and negate you. And it's not so much the people who have an opinion. It's the ones who just hate for no reason. And that's where a lot of those comments came from. They just seem to be hateful comments. The one with the discount code attached to the end. She tried to kill my cat. By the way, here's a 15%.
I think my favorite was the one that was mad at her for trying to kill herself because it delayed the flight. Because I think that speaks mostly to human nature, because everyone's like selfishness comes out. Like, this is really about me. Because that's true. That's human nature. Everything is really about yourself. And so even if this person's trying to kill themselves on your plane, you're upset with them because you made them late to your destination. And
one social commentary point that they brought up was the fact that the blog was more important and more prevalent than the actual article about what really happened. This was an opinion piece that everyone read. No one read the factual piece. This was the one just everyone wanted to hear opinions, and that's how we are now. A lot of pieces of news that we get are clickbait. Yeah. No one actually reads the article, and a lot of them are opinion pieces.
Well, and nobody wants to do the fact checking to see what might be real and what might not be.
Exactly.
It's like watching a Hollywood film about something that happened in history and taking it word for word.
And that's exactly how it happened.
And that's never the case. And just like that, with Rebecca, it's not the case. There's a lot more gray area. There's a lot more nuance than that. But she finally, as you said, she finally makes it there. She gets to speak to herself through this dead girl who has fecal matter on the wall, and realize, and I wanted someone though to bring up the fact that she was out of the house.
Well, I think they were very cautious about that because they didn't want to jolt her. Even when she jumps in the bed with Heather and Hector, and Hector quickly realizes this is a way to get Rebecca out of the house and finally back into the real world, or at least an outside world, and Heather catches on. Rebecca uses it to justify staying in the house even more. But I think her friends are trying to lead her out of the house to make her a part of the world.
And I do like that it seems like for the first time in her life that she has these people by her side who aren't going to leave, no matter how much she pushes them away.
Well, Paula's always kind of been there. I think Paula's been the truest friend since day one.
Yeah.
And Heather, who had such a huge story arc in season 3, I think she became a lot more self-aware and realized a lot about herself. Like, that would have been her journey to some extent. I think Heather's become, I really like Heather. Heather's become, Bree knows that, you probably knew going in
that Heather would be your favorite.
Heather would be my favorite character. So watching it, I see that she has a really good group of friends around her. Even Valencia is just, they really care about her.
Well, I like that they're there for her, but in turn, she's made each of them better people. Because at the beginning, you look at it and Paula was depressed and unhappy, and she now has things to live for, and she's really excited, and she's living her truth and becoming a lawyer. And then you have Valencia, who was just narcissistic, full of herself, kind of didn't have any girlfriends, very bitchy, and she came into her own and now is, even though still those things.
Wow, hate Valencia a little less there, Bree. Sheesh.
But she's still some of those things, but she's more likable now. She's able to kind of take a step back at times.
Even as an audience, we like her way more. Mm-hmm. I remember not liking her season 1, like kind of over her season 2, then really liking her season 3, and going into season 4, she's still.
It took the haircut to get us to like her.
It was the haircut.
Then Heather, who was this very judgmental next door neighbor. I'm cool. I don't need anything. I'm just a student. And now, she may just be a general manager, but she's coming into her own. She's having relationships, and she's being friends with people who she claims are losers. So I think each of them have grown, which is nice to see the transition happening. But that's kind of where we end this episode off on. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, I wanted to talk about the seance.
So yes.
We have to talk about the seance because it was like a episode, not an episode. What was the movie? It was like Charmed, but the movie, remember?
Practical Magic?
No, it was the one. Oh man, I hate when I forget. It's when I say it, we'll all just know this movie.
Okay. Just go into it, and I'll be keeping in mind.
And they had the seance, and then they discovered they were doing they had their little witch powers. Anyway, with the seance, it reminded me of that, like something out of that.
Are you talking about The Craft?
The Craft, there you go.
Okay.
So when they're sitting around, if you remember watching Craft and they did their first seance and then stuff started happening, I know technically there was a logical reason for everything happening. However, coincidence and how it happened, the book opening up right to that page, which at first I thought someone had dropped the book. I thought Hector or someone had placed the book and they were trying to
get her out of the house.
To get some type of reaction from Rebecca. But clearly they didn't. So, and as the episode went on, that's when I figured out they didn't. I honestly thought in the beginning that they had planned it. It was a planted book. Then we go into the Rebecca justifying staying in, trying to learn more. And afterwards, we have the seance and the desk moves at that exact moment. The lights go out at that exact moment. Facebook was open. Sure, it was to the page. That was one
of my favorite parts is that she's like, oh my God, it opened. Weren't you already on this page?
Weren't you already on the page? It's like, oh my God. And it was on that page. And then we see Rebecca leave the house because of it. She wants flowers. It was the ad that popped up, and have that conversation where she says something so real, where she's like, to the headstone, something satisfying about staying in the purgatory of your past, but move on, move forward. Mm-hmm. And that's something almost that all of us need to take to heart.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And let's get into, because there's some of this, we see some of this manifest into the song. So let's get into our first special segment, which is discussing the songs of this episode. So first, and we're going to watch this one and listen to it, is the Rebecca new theme song for this show.
I think I'm in love with Deborah, by the way.
With Deborah? Wait, no, the other Rebecca. While we're pulling that up, I'm going to talk a little bit about it. They did say, like, the very last sentence of the song, there was an article referencing that that's going to change for every episode.
The last sentence is going to change, so we should pay attention to whatever the last sentence of that song is.
We also have a picture of that where Rachel tweeted that out saying, and now I present to you the Final Crazy Ex-Girlfriend theme song, and yes, the last line will change every week. So we'll get a new line every week, and I'm assuming that'll have to do with whatever the episode's about.
So much on the show, you have to pay attention. This isn't a show where you can get up and go to the bathroom.
No.
You'll miss so much. And even while we're laughing, we oftentimes miss little things that happen. I found myself watching a show, maybe not an entire show back to back, but I would definitely rewind or watch little things to see if I had missed stuff, and I most of the times had little things.
And I went back and rewatched right before this season, and I caught so many things that I hadn't seen the first time around. So yeah, this is definitely one of those shows that has a ton of Easter eggs for you.
Detail oriented for sure.
I think we're ready with the new theme song.
Rebecca, she's the coolest girl in the world. Wait, wrong, Rebecca.
And there she is, like, waving and starting with a frowning face and a little smile.
I love the little montage too to the rest of the seasons.
So people listening on podcasts, you're seeing the new theme song, and it's different montages of scenes of this season
and all the seasons.
But the only reason
My name is Deborah.
That's just so funny to me. Like, all the seasons, and were some of those scenes from this season?
They may have been. I think a lot of them were past seasons because they're just trying to bring her up as a character and be like, this is who she is. And they're like, wait, we don't really even know who she is. She's so many things, which is, which is kind of what bipolar disorder can be at times. And that's a thing. Borderline personality.
I
just want to make sure, just because it is a different disorder.
It is a different, exactly. And the concept of how it brings up mental illness, well, that's even the thing, the fact that we now know the difference between the two, or you would even correct me, is something I don't feel like I would have done or been allotted to do before watching the show. The show really touches on mental health.
Yeah. It does it in such a smart, fun way, too, which is, I think, how you have to learn things. You have to kind of do it in a way that's not going to be just forcing it down your throat. Well, let's move on to our second song of the episode. This Two Steps Forward. Three Steps Back, procrastination / agoraphobia song, where we just see Rebecca kind of walking in the door. Just for her, she can't leave the house, but for me and Tehran, I think it was
rocking on the floor.
I think for me and Tehran, it was very much, this is what happens when you don't want to do something, and so you come up with every little thing you can do.
Everything you can do to not do what it is that you have to do. You start finding things, and she finds so many things. And there she goes.
Including her 6-hour masturbation.
She cleans the fridge. She does masturbate to gay porn. She starts reading about stingrays. That was really funny because I've done that so many times. Do you know how many times I've been late just because I've decided that I need to know something right before I need to leave the house and I have to read up? I mean, who doesn't want to read up about West Covina right now, And it happens to me sometimes.
I do think that it is one of the saddest parts, though, because through procrastination or through her agoraphobia that she's having, you miss out on things that you would love to do in life. And she misses out on going to Hocus Pocus and meeting Kathy and Jimmy.
Who's her favorite character in Hocus Pocus.
She rides the vacuum cleaner.
Who gives her, which is everybody's favorite part of that movie. That's why that was such a real line. But she gives her a personal message too, and includes don't flush the tampons. And goes,
don't flush.
Everyone flushes tampons.
Yeah, that was the common theme of the entire episode was do not flush your tampons. But I mean, this was a fun, lighthearted song. It wasn't necessarily a song you're going to go home and sing to. We've talked about this last episode with the Cell Block Tango-esque song. But yeah, it's not necessarily a song you're going to go sing to. But it was a fun song, and it was, I think, an important thing of what she was going through at that moment of not being able to leave her house. Out
of most of the songs, this is actually one I really relate to, and it's one I might sing along to. I was actually I might need this song because it's so relatable for me.
And then our third song that we get to is the Creep, Monster Mash, the Cringe. Sorry, not the Creep. The Creep is the one from SNL. The Cringe, which is our Monster Mash-esque Halloween song starring Patton Oswalt.
Yeah. So we see Security Castleman come back, and we see him pop up from behind the headstone when he reveals himself as they're giving this heartfelt speech to Devin Lee's headstone. And, of course, he goes into the song.
Yeah, and we get all the zombies telling you about all the things that they were ashamed of in life and how they had to keep moving forward.
And they were normal things, of course. Everything that we become ashamed of as people, except for the one where Security Castleman admits, the guy goes, "Aren't you the guy that murdered me?" He's like, we won't talk about that.
But, based on his last appearance on this show with the creepy aquarium touching the different things in the fuel tank, I would not be surprised if this man was a serial killer.
I mean, clearly the way the zombie said it, I believed the zombie.
But I'm going a step further. I would not be surprised if he was a serial killer.
Oh, as in he's murdered multiple people. That could very well be a theme as this show goes on. But this is another character you had touched on, Bree. You had touched on the point that they bring characters back and give them these roles, and this is another example of this. And from what I understood, Patton Oswalt was a big fan of the show, and has been friends with this group of people, and so
I mean, a lot of them do Second City or. I can't think of what the UCB, thank you. And then there's one more that starts with the W that I can't think of either. But a lot of these sketch comedy places.
Sketch comedy. And they actually go on tour with their comedy, and they do the songs live in different people's cities. Mm-hmm. And and the way I found out is simultaneously I was traveling to Denver where they were performing, and I didn't realize that they had even done stand-up in that way, but they do like a whole show. It's stand-up, it's singing, it's funny, and they perform these things live.
Yep. And they also have been talks like, look, saying that, let's get into our news and gossip section. And they have had some little bit talks that they may turn this into a Broadway show afterwards, which makes sense.
It actually absolutely makes sense considering the success of their live show. So I could see this, and I wonder if it's a Broadway show. Is it basically the TV show each and every week, a different episode, or is it the same one over and over again?
I mean, I think you have to make it almost the same one because, I mean, it'd be a great sell point to have it be different because then you're making people come back.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess they'd have to test it out and see
how it works.
How it would work. But I mean, we'll see once the show ends. I think that's what they're going to really focus on and go into. So we'll see how that goes. And
that's very interesting.
Then we'll have to go to New York and watch it and do a live broadcast from New York.
I'm sure they'll come to LA.
They'll tour. Some other news we got was this particular episode of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. We had a co-directing episode, but you won't know that because they took one of the directors off the episode in terms of giving them credit for it. That was the DGA saying that they basically, the way the article makes it point out is that they haven't had enough writing credits or directing credits to warrant both of them getting a spot as credited on this episode. That is Audrey Wachobas as her partner. Rachel Spector will not be credited on their directorial debut due to DGA bias against female directing teams, is what they are claiming. She put out a tweet saying, my hashtag female filmmaker Friday goes out to my co-director on tonight's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend episode, Rachel Spector. Rachel and I are a lifelong writing directing team, but due to a decision by the DGA, which completely erases her from our work, she's not credited on tonight's episode.
At least her friend stuck up for her. And here's something that, so what they do is, and when I say they, it's the powers that be, they kind of limit people by saying, well, you don't have enough credits, or you don't have enough experience, or you don't have enough background. But the thing is, how do you test someone's abilities if they are outside the building? You're not even allowed in the building in order to learn, prove, and grow.
Well, that she goes on to say, we were told our body of work was not great enough, and when asked why we hadn't directed more, our answer was, we had children and full-time writing jobs, a career which we fought for after being let go for sexual harassment and pregnancy.
Interesting. So that's just a bad look from the DGA. I do wish they were both credited. Who was the other director?
Rachel Spector.
Rachel.
And then also we have Aline Brosh McKenna and Rachel Bloom both kind of wrote out in favor of these directors as well, giving their backing for them. Rachel tweeted, DGA, get your act together, at Audrey Allison and at Rachel Spector, are dual directing force to be reckoned with. And Aline Brosh McKenna, she just came out backing them, so she didn't have like a full thing, but she said that she said the DGA decision was distressing and confusing.
And I don't personally believe the DGA does it in order to discriminate on purpose, but they don't realize that what they're doing is discriminatory. And because everything didn't just get good yesterday and everything's fine. You're talking about years and years and decades of unfair practices, and now you expect everyone to catch up right away and just everything be fine because everything is technically fair now.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you, but I do think it is important to at least be stating these things, because I don't think it's things people are aware of that especially are outside of the industry, that they have no idea. They just...
Very true.
I mean, they don't even necessarily look at the credits. So I think to not even have your name there is a big deal when that's all you really get to hold on to. But with that, we were running out of time, so let's do a quick one each prediction, and then let's get out of here.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
My prediction is going to be Darryl and White Josh get back together.
I made that prediction last week, so I'll go a little bit different. I'm going to predict that next episode we're going to see Rebecca maybe trying to get back into the law office a little bit.
Okay, well, since you made that prediction, I'm going to say Rebecca and Valencia get together. Now what? Yeah, I said it.
All right, with that, let's let you guys get back to your Sunday. Where can they find you,
Well,
Tehran?
you can find me at I Am Tehran all across the board, and I do have to give a special shout out to Snaylor Swift and Katy Berry, that was hilarious. I thought those were great. So at I Am Tehran all across the board, thank you so much for having me on the show. I hope to be here this entire season for the fourth and final season of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Yeah, it was great having you. Thank you for joining us. And you guys can find me at Bri, BRI_Phipps, PHIPPS on Twitter and Instagram. And we will see you guys all next week.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.